always going to do that. I'm convening the Maui County Board of Ethics meeting for August 12, 2026. It's 12:30 p.m. Calling the meeting to order. I'm Michael Lilly, the chair of the Board of Ethics. I acknowledge members Randall Leach, Sherry Dodson, Brian Tanaka, John Tomoso, Dwayne Gomes are present. I see we have one member remote. Katie Schroeder, could you state your presence and if you're alone?
Yes, this is Katie Schroeder, and I am alone in my room in Houston.
Wow. Okay. Also present here is our Executive Director, Legal Counsel Lauren Akataki, our Corp Counsel Representative Caleb Rowe, our Staff Attorney Chris Tsukiyama, and our Assistant Rissa Tam Ho. Next on the agenda is public testimony. As a reminder, testimony must pertain to items on the meeting agenda. When testifying, please direct your remarks to the members of the board and not to any individual board member, staff member, or member of the public. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per agenda item as determined by the board at its December 3, 2025 meeting. For individuals wishing to testify on Teams, please click the raise your hand button to be added to the testifier log. If you're calling in, please follow the phone prompts to be added to the log. If you wish to testify anonymously, please sign in as anonymous and you will be given a testifier number. Decorum shall be maintained at all times. Any person who behaves in a manner that disrupts, disturbs, or impedes the orderly conduct of any board meeting can, at the direction of the chair or the majority of the present board members, be ejected or banned from board meetings, or if participating remotely, muted or dropped from the meeting. Examples of disruptive behavior include, but are not limited to, heckling, shouting, or use of profanity, threatening, or slanderous remarks made to any member of the board, staff, or general public. All meeting attendees, whether online or in person, are expected to wear clothing which should not display profanity, obscenity, or any message that could be considered discriminatory, harassing, or inappropriate for these proceedings. We will be using an on-screen timer, and as our standard practice has been to limit public testimony to a reasonable amount of time of 3 minutes per item, the timer will light up red at 3 minutes. Please keep an eye on your time remaining and kindly wrap up your testimony once it expires. We welcome your comments in written form should you have more to share. Also, please state the agenda item you're testifying on. Rissa, do we have any public testimony?
Yes, Chair, we have Anders Lyons testifying on item 4B.
Okay, that's Honest Lyons. You want to step forward, Mr. Lyons?
As a company that has a tenant relationship, we are required to have licensed real estate agents on the staff, as well as a broker that is dedicated to our real estate transactions, which mainly involves lease signing leases. Our current broker is in hospice, still signing, but we're not sure when. No longer going to be able to do that. We've been looking for about 3 months now for somebody to hang their shingle in our real estate store. And quite frankly, I've not found many leads. Mark Wenshin is a former employee of ours, and we heard about this. He has a broker's license that he's not using. And it seems like it would be a good fit for our organization to have him as a part-time. Generally speaking, it's 7 hours per pay period. We have 3.5 hours per week. Signing leases and things. That concludes my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Reynolds. Mike, Randall.
Thank you, Honest. Your group, is that a 501c3? Okay, yeah, good, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Honest. Any other testimony?
No, Chair, there's no one else waiting online or in person to testify.
I'm closing public testimony. Agenda item number 3, I'm going to refer to Executive Director of Legal Counsel, Lauren Akataki, for her report.
Thank you, Chair. So first on my my agenda here for my report would be the number of informal advisory opinions that I gave from July 8, 2026 through August 11, 2026, actually that our office gave. So between myself and Chris Tsukiyama. So that number is 15. And the members are welcome to see me anytime after the meeting to review those informal advisory opinions if you would like. Next, I have here status of Board of Ethics staff. So this is an exciting item, and I am really happy to say that September 1st, we will be fully staffed with 5 full-time employees. So Gail Rakes, who was our part-time investigator, we had always discussed that, and from the beginning, that when our office needed a full-time investigator, because she could only work part-time, that she'd be happy to step aside at that point so that we could fill the position full-time. And so we identified a qualified full-time investigator. He currently is an investigator with the DCCA. And so he's going to start next week, Monday. And we also hired a full-time paralegal. She is coming from Corp Counsel and has an enormous amount of experience. So she will be starting September 1st. So as of September 1st, we will be fully staffed. And I'm so thrilled about that. It's taken a while to get the positions, but we are here. So I'm looking forward to that additional capacity that the additional staff will bring to our office. Next update on the July 28th, 2026 Great Committee meeting. So we presented our priorities, our top 3 priorities to the Great Committee. Bill 55 was extending the statute of limitations to 6 years from an ethics violation. Bill 99 is our anti-nepotism ordinance, and Bill 100 is our lobbyist ordinance that the board approved. I do want to note that I have that in the board packet. I wanted you all to see and to be in the public record the actual ordinance that was presented to council, because you folks approved the substance earlier and then it had to go through revisions to become an ordinance. So it's in your materials. Lastly, I want to put on your radar that Councilmember Batangan, who is also the chair of the Great Committee, he's very supportive of our priorities. And so we're grateful for that. He also is interested in introducing legislation regarding increasing the number of people who have to file a financial disclosure statement. So that's one of our priorities that we identified early, that the list of people who have to file financial disclosure statements hasn't been updated possibly ever. I'm looking at Caleb, but I don't know that it has been. So it is out of date. There are people that have authority regarding funds that we should consider having them also file financial disclosure statements. And so I wanted to let you know, Councilmember Batangan is looking into him introducing legislation. But in conjunction with that, you saw from the memo about Honolulu's conflict of interest provision forms. They sort of can be discussed together because they do similar things, and we should talk through the parameters of each one so that we address our goals of disclosure. So we'll have that discussion later on our agenda. And that's all I have.
Uh,
Happy to answer any questions.
Just to make it clear, I don't know if you made it clear that Bill 55 passed the Great Committee. 99 and 100, they never got through it, so that's been rescheduled for September.
Sometime in September.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I have one question on the informal advisory opinions. You said there was 15. Can you summarize, is there a general theme of the opinions asked, or are they logged in? And
They
I'd
are
like to
logged.
see some of that.
They are logged, and I know what I can tell you is that September 1st, our paralegal is starting, and one of her priorities is we will categorize all of the complaints and the informal advisory opinions, so we can have statistics for you
Yeah.
on, you know, what percentage were conflict of interest, what percentage were gift questions, what percentage were spouse questions, you know, those sorts of things. So, or grant questions. So those are the recurring themes, but we will have statistics for you. So that'll be really helpful. And it's coming in the future. So.
Any further questions? Thank you for the report. Moving on to item number 4. This is a request for advisory opinion number 26A-32 from Mr. Don Cameron, who serves as a commissioner for the Maui Police Commission. Mr. Cameron requests an advisory opinion with 3 questions. The first is whether it is consistent with the code of ethics for the commission's investigator who investigates complaints against the Maui Police Department and its officers and reports to the Maui Police Commission to be classified as an employee of the Maui Police Department or administrative and payroll purposes. The second and third questions are outside our jurisdiction, so we won't be discussing them. If Mr. Cameron is present.
Yes, I am.
Yes, would you like to say anything about this request?
Well, I just want to get your board ruling on ethics. It was my experience of being in the police department. When there ever was a police commission investigation, it always done by an independent party who had no contacts or anything with the police department. This new thing, they have it funded as an investigator through the police department. And I see it has to be, our job is being on the commission is to be independent for the community and the police department. And to have an investigator that is funded by the police department answers to the deputy chief. I think it has to be, my personal thing is be moved to another venue or funding to do this. But to investigate anybody in the police department, it should be a neutral party with no contacts or family members in the police department.
Any questions? Yes.
Hello, Mr. Cameron. I'm wondering, is this the practice of the police department of MPD to have an internal investigator heretofore investigating, like you say, an independent body or members of that independent body? Is that the way it is or has been in the department?
It's always been independent contract investigators.
But now it's internal. It's a
Now
position.
they have created, they're trying to create, they did create a position. They took a PD number from dispatch and reallocated it to an SR 24 and made it an investigator 5. And that's where the funding is for this thing.
So it's no longer independent. It's
And it's no
an
longer
internal.
independent. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Cameron, do I understand it that the investigator is employed by the Maui Police Commission?
It is supposed to be employed by the police commission, but it is funded by the police department under a PD number.
So he gets paid out of the police department budget,
Yes,
and he's located at the police department, but he is answerable to his or her employer is the police commission.
yes.
Thank you.
Again, this is Member Tomoso. So I'm confused because Mr. Cameron is saying that this position is an independent position, yet it appears as a civil service SR 24 position on the MPD, or like our members of this, our staff, is this a civil service position under the commission, or is it an MPD position? That's why I'm thinking Mr. Cameron said he's no longer independent. So, and that's why I was saying, oh, this is an internal investigator position. So is it internal or is it external? Is it independent, a contractor, or it sounds like a civil service position to me. So where does this position lie? In the commission or in the department?
They've created this investigator position from the police department budget and everything else. In the past, with any investigator with the police commission, it has been independent contract investigators, okay? That's what I'm trying to get the ruling on. That we investigate anybody and everybody in the police department on a complaint. Should it be an independent investigator with no contacts or ties to the police department?
But that doesn't sound like the case now, because
No,
that's
they're-
why you hear.
That's why they've brought this up, and they're trying to fill this investigator position.
Because you said it's an SR 24, right? Which doesn't sound
Yes,
independent.
yes.
It's not an
They,
independent
they
contract.
took a PD number, which was a dispatch number, and they reallocated it to a 24. And then it's in the office of the chief. The investigator is in the thing is in the office of the chief. The chief, the deputy investigator, the secretaries. That's how it is.
So it's an MPD position,
Yes.
not a commission. It's MPD.
Yeah, MPD.
Okay, so it's within the department. Civil service. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Cameron, I just want to make it clear, I think I did earlier, that this investigator is employed though by the police commission, is answerable to the police commission.
Yeah, he is to answer to the police commission. He's to do an investigation, bring the facts to the commission. We all talk about it, deliberate, and see where we're going to go.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm still confused.
Sure.
You said, can I complete my thought first?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm confused. So you say we're saying that this position is answerable to the commission? But I heard Mr. Cameron earlier say that he's answerable to the office of the chief. And it is a civil service position in the police department, or is it? Okay, go ahead. I'm confused.
I just wanted to clarify a little bit. Currently, there is no investigator hired by the police department currently. There was a request that they be able to hire their own investigators, since what they've been doing is they've either been asking other departments that have investigators to help them do their investigations, or they've been contracting out those services. I believe it was last year, they requested that they have a full-time investigator. That request was put in the Maui Police Department budget, just as all of the funding for the police commission is put in the budget. The investigator will be hired by the police commission, will be reviewed by the police commission, but will be physically present in in the police department, and their funding is allocated under the police department.
Answerable to the commission or to the chief?
To the police commission. He's hired by the police commission. He is reviewed by the police commission.
So I guess you've tried to clear up my confusion.
Was trying to. Hopefully I did.
Well, I'm still confused, but okay. I'm not disrespecting you, Mr. Cameron. I just need to know
No,
if this
that's-
position.
You're not. I don't take it as that at all. It's like, all I know is this, it's always had to be somebody independent of the police department. Okay, in light of the investigation by the FBI, you need an independent person, even more so now in the present day, as of today, what's happening.
So this position is not what it's been before. It's now within the
Yes,
civil
It
project.
used to be independent contract investigator. They have now formulated into a PD number out of the police department and funded by the police budget.
Okay, I'm not confused. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Akataki.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe this will be helpful. I'm going to sort of build the record with some of the background. So, Mr. Cameron, please correct me if I say anything inaccurate. Firstly, thank you so much for bringing this advisory opinion to the board. Advisory opinions, they promote transparency, they strengthen public confidence in government, and we really appreciate you to the board to request this advisory opinion. To summarize the requests and the applicable provisions of the charter that seem to apply here, one of the duties of the commission, the police commission, is to receive, review, and investigate complaints brought by members of the public regarding conduct of MPD and its officers. Following the commission's review and investigation, the commission would submit a report of its findings and recommendations to the chief of police for disposition. To address the backlog of complaints and improve the timeliness of investigations, the commission obtained approval to hire a full-time investigator dedicated to conducting investigations on behalf of the commission. Under the proposed arrangement, the investigator would conduct investigations exclusively for the commission. The investigator would report directly to the commission regarding all investigative matters. The investigator would not be supervised by MPD with respect to the substance, direction, or outcome of any investigation. The investigator's office would be physically, well, is this correct? I have here that it would be physically separate from MPD facilities, but it was mentioned earlier that they would be housed in MPD. Is that?
That is my understanding. The police commission has been looking to have their staff have a separate office building, but as of right now, there's only one staff member and that staff member is housed at MPD.
All right, so it's unclear where the investigator would be housed, whether within MPD or separate. Although the investigator would perform investigative work exclusively for the commission, the position would be established within MPD for administrative purposes. The investigator would be classified as an MPD employee with salary and benefits paid through the MPD budget. For administrative matters such as payroll, benefits, timekeeping, and personnel processing, the investigator would report to the Deputy Chief of Police and submit time records through MPD's workday system. The Deputy Chief would not supervise or direct the investigators' investigative responsibilities. The question presented to the board is whether this administrative employment arrangement is consistent with the Code of Ethics. So the rules that can come into play are Charter 10-1, that states employees shall demonstrate by their example the highest standards of ethical conduct to the end that the public may justifiably have trust and confidence in the integrity of government. The other provision arguably applicable is Charter 10-4.1C that prohibits an employee engaging in an activity or having a financial interest, which would include employment, that is incompatible with the proper discharge of their official duties or that may tend to impair their independence of judgment in performing those duties. So just some considerations here. So on the one hand, the board may wish to consider whether the proposed safeguards are sufficient to preserve the investigator's independence of judgment. Those safeguards include the investigator would report exclusively to the commission regarding investigations, would not receive direction or be supervised by MPD, would perform work solely for the commission, and would possibly maintain a workspace separate from MPD. The board may wish to consider if those operational safeguards would adequately distinguish the investigator's investigative role from the administrative employment relationship with MPD. On the other hand, the board may also consider whether classifying the investigator as an employee of the same department that it is the subject of the investigator's work could reasonably raise questions regarding independence of judgment or the appearance of impartiality. Relevant considerations may include whether administrative matters such as payroll, benefits, personnel, administration, or other aspects of the employment relationship could affect or reasonably be perceived as affecting the investigator's independence in carrying out official duties. And lastly, the board may wish to consider the broader purpose of ethics rules. And my computer just froze.
Can I ask a FYI question?
Go ahead.
I was on the Maui Police Commission at one time. And is this the same Maui Police Commission that has the general public as the members of the commission? Or is there another police commission with the same name?
Mr. Cameron?
Yes, this is independent. What you were on as a commissioner, it's the same thing.
So just my last thought, the board may wish to consider the broader purpose of the ethics rules, whether the proposed amendment sufficiently protects both actual independence and public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the commission's investigative process. So just wanted to put those considerations and those charter provisions on the table for your consideration.
Mr. Chair, I have another question for Mr. Cameron.
Yes.
So you have told us that previously this position, the investigator, was an independent contract,
Yes.
but now it's going to be, with a PD within the department, in department's budget. So has the commission discussed this change as to why you're going to the PD now and not be an independent contract? It's not working anymore?
This process was started in 2024 of trying to find an investigator. And
Okay.
it's almost coming to that, but we're trying to get clarity as far as independence. I am.
And by independence, you mean not answerable to
Oh,
anybody,
okay.
but
One of the other questions too of this investigator, if there's no complaints, what does the investigator do? But I mean, it's like, I still feel it should be independent investigators with no ties to the police department whatsoever, to anybody in the police department.
I'd like to ask a question. Mr. Cameron, who wrote the job description?
I'm not sure who wrote that. This was done prior to my appointment to the commission.
I thank you for bringing this issue, because obviously by your bringing it, we are aware that there are certain optics here that the public may bring up as well.
Any further questions, comments?
So, Mr. Cameron, sorry, I missed a little bit of the exchange, so in case you've already answered this, but on the commission, are they supportive of you bringing this? I mean, have they discussed this? Is this a known issue that they as a whole wanted ethics guidance on, or was it just sort of initiated by you?
It was initiated by me.
Has it been discussed though in the commission?
I've discussed, we've discussed it. And I told them how I feel it has to be independent.
Has there been a discussion of any other possibilities for housing the investigator? For like
Say it.
payroll purposes? Are there any
sorry.
other options? Or is it even possible to house the investigator, have a different sort of payroll relationship here?
I'm not sure, because it was all funded through the police.
I just want to go further in what I've been querying, Mr. Cameron. So obviously, at one time, the investigator position was an independent contract. And
Yes,
over time and process, it's become now this PD within the department. So what you're telling us has been discussed in the commission already, this going from independent contract to actual PD with the civil service rating within the department. So the commission is aware of this process, going from independent contract to the PD now?
yes.
So you've spoken on the record about what you're telling us right now
Yes,
with the commission. In other words, they know you're here.
yes. Caleb, he's been present at the meetings.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm a social worker by profession, and process is very important to me. From here to here, and here we are. But I don't know, looking backwards, how you got to this PD position and how open and public has been this discussion in and within the commission itself, that you're not here with them not knowing you're here. They know you're here. In other words, you've spoken on the record.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further comments? I'm going to make a recommendation. I recommend we issue an advisory opinion that, based on the facts presented, because the investigator is employed by and answerable to the police commission, the proposed employment arrangement does not constitute a per se violation of the Maui Code of Ethics. However, because the investigator would be administratively employed by or physically at the same department that is the sole subject of the investigator's work, the arrangement raises concerns regarding the appearance of independence. And because the Code of Ethics is intended to promote not only the absence of actual conflicts, but also public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of county government, we recommend that the police commission clearly establish the investigator's independence. For example, ensuring the investigator would report exclusively to the commission regarding investigations, would not receive investigative direction or supervision from Maui Police Department, and to whatever extent is feasible, minimizing the extent to which administrative matters such as payroll, benefits, personnel administration, or other aspects of the employment relationship could affect or reasonably be perceived as affecting the investigator's independence. So can I have a motion?
I so move. I'll second.
So I got Katie as a second. Any discussion? I think the purpose is there's not as I say, there's not a per se violation, but we see a serious issue that could affect the public. The public's concern with the integrity of the process. And I think Mr. Cameron was alluding to the recent arrest of a police lieutenant, which undermines the public trust in the integrity of the whole process. It affects the whole county that's happened. So what the recommendation, motion proposes is that we ask the commission to really take a hard look at this process to make sure that even though this, for the time being, where this investigator is physically at the police department, that to whatever extent they can is set up a wall so that this person is understood to be purely a police commission investigator, answerable only to the police commission. So Sherry, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, that leads me to my concern. The biggest red flag for me is that they are physically in the Maui Police Department and setting up, an imaginary wall, Chinese wall is what we used to call it. When all the paperwork is in the police department, so it could be accessed by anybody. I think the most important thing is to get them out of the police department and somewhere else, whether it is if the commission can, even one of their officers or one of their commissioners have an extra space in their own business just to get them off property. To me, that's the biggest concern.
How about I amend my motion to add that we recommend that the police commission look at finding alternative space for this investigator away from the police department.
Yeah, that would make me very happy.
How do I add that to the motion?
I'm friendly to that motion. Emotion. I'm friendly to that amendment.
Okay, so you move that be added to my motion.
Yes.
Katie, do you have a second?
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion on that motion that I add that to my motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sherry? Katie?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. No, now we're going to call the motion. Any further discussion on the underlying motion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I didn't say it earlier, Carol Swan and Chibo Ching Johnson are excused from this meeting. Just make it. All right, so that passed. So now we're going to move on to an advisory opinion. Our next agenda item is request for advisory opinion number 26A-38 submitted by the County of Maui employee Mark Wenshin regarding one, whether conflict of interest exists between his county position as a housing specialist with the Department of Housing and potential secondary employment as a principal broker of Honolulu Property Management LLC, and two, whether any post-employment restrictions would apply to his continued employment with Honolulu Property Management LLC following his retirement or separation from county service. Mr. Wenshin, are you here? You have some comments you would like to make?
Between me and her, but she's my big boss, and she has prepared a little testimony if she's able to
Sure.
make that statement now.
Yes. Yeah, happy to. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Board of Ethics. As Mark stated, my name is Gail Ramboa, and I serve as a Federal Housing Programs Director, the Federal Housing Programs Administrator for the County of Maui Department of Housing. I'm here to testify on Mr. Wenshin's behalf to accept part-time employment as a principal broker for Honolulu. This position is temporary and secondary to his employment with the Department of Housing. In my capacity as administrator, I oversee the division in which Mr. Wenshin works. Based on my review of the current county responsibilities and his proposed duties with Honolulu, I personally do not believe that outside employment conflicts with the proper performance of his county duties. Therefore, I support his request, provided that the proper and followed to maintain a complete separation between his county responsibilities and his proposed temporary private employment. I do understand, however, that compliance requires avoiding not only an actual conflict of interest, but also circumstances that could reasonably create the appearance that private employment influences county duties. For that reason, I am prepared to implement measures specifically addressing any county matters involving Halemaho'olu. Mr. Wenshin would be excluded from eligibility determinations, any inspections, rent determinations, housing assistance payments, compliance matters, informal hearings, and any deliberations involving Halemaho'olu. Staff would be instructed to direct any Halemaho'olu matters to another designated employee, to the program manager, or to myself. Also, all Halemaho'olu participant, landlord, property, and housing assistant files currently assigned to Mr. Wenshin would be reassigned to another housing specialist. He would not make, review, recommend, or influence any department decisions involving Halemaho'olu. Halemaho'olu has also multiple layers of management and oversight. Tenant and landlord matters would not be elevated to Mr. Wenshin in his limited and temporary capacity as principal broker. Instead, those matters handle Olu's established management structure and, when necessary, elevated to its housing director. This safeguard would prevent him from representing Halemaho'olu before the department or using his county position to obtain or create the appearance of obtaining any advantage for the organization. These restrictions would apply not only to the files presently assigned to him, but also to any future department matters specifically involving Halemaho'olu for as long as he holds both positions. We would document the reassignment of files and separation of duties so that the restrictions are clear to the employee, management, and other staff. From an operational standpoint, I can implement and monitor these safeguards without disrupting services to the participants or the administration of the program. With these safeguards in place, Mr. Wenshin's private employment would remain separate from his county responsibilities and would not interfere with his independent judgment or the proper performance of his duties. For these reasons, I support his request to accept the part-time temporary principal broker position subject to the restrictions described. If the board does recommend additional safeguards, I am prepared to consider and implement them. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this information. I am available to answer any questions that the board may have. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Aloha. You stated temporary position. What does that mean? Temporary.
From my discussions with Mr. Wenshin, that the position is temporary and part-time.
So there is no end in sight to this temporary position, or it goes from what date to what date, or what does temporary mean? I mean.
No, of course. May I speak with that?
Of course, of course.
So, as I understand it with my discussions with, Anis is, they have sought out another opportunity for a principal broker on a more permanent basis. However, that individual still has to take the class, take the exam, pass the exam before they are eligible to become a principal broker. So I would be fulfilling that need until that individual.
Okay, so there is someone waiting in the wings.
Correct.
I understand.
3 months, it could be 6 months.
Thank you. I just needed to know what temporary meant.
Any further questions?
Can I ask a question of Mr. Rec? Of how do you say your last name, please? I'm sorry.
Wenshin.
Mr. Wenshin?
Yes.
So I've heard the testimony of the executive director, Mr. Lyons, to say exactly what this position is going to do for this nonprofit. What is your understanding of what you're going to be doing?
Exactly what
Leases.
Lyons indicated, signing their residential leases.
Leases.
Yes,
And that's it.
that's it.
Maikai. Mahalo.
Anything further? So, Thank you, Mr. Wenshin. You're now going to refer over to our executive director.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So again, I'll build the record here. So maybe repetitive. Also speak to your questions in building this record. Please, Mr. Wenshin, correct me if there's anything that I state incorrectly. So firstly, thank you so much for bringing this to us. Really appreciate it. This is what we're here for, to talk about this publicly, and so we build public trust and transparency about our decision making. So I do want to clarify. So I spoke with Mr. Wenshin yesterday, and there was a change in employment offer, essentially. So there were two requests here. Could Mr. Wenshin do the temporary current lease work for Halemahaʻolu? And the second question was asking for post-employment advice for a permanent position. But we are going to strike the second request, as that may not be a possibility. And I did tell Mr. Wenshin, should that come up later, that it wouldn't happen until you would retire later, sometime next year. And so you can bring that to us sometime next year if you still want that advice. So we're only going to deal with the temporary position that would start now. So Mr. Wenshin is a housing specialist with the Department of Housing. He administers Section 8 housing choice voucher files, including files for participants residing at the Halemahaʻolu Evalu, which consists of approximately 38 housing units. Mr. Wenshin is considering part-time employment as the principal broker of Halemahaʻolu Property Management LLC. That's Halemahaʻolu's property management division, the LLC. He represents that his duties would be limited to reviewing and signing standard form residential lease agreements as their principal broker. He would not administer the Housing Choice Voucher Program, represent Halemahaʻolu before any county agency, or sign housing assistant payment contracts. There are two separate contractual relationships, just to kind of put on the record, involved in the Halemahaʻolu housing arrangements. So there's a Section 8 payment contracts between the county and the landlord, Halemahaʻolu Evalu LLC. That's part of Mr. Wenshin's current responsibilities that we heard will be moved away from Mr. Wenshin. The residential lease by contrast is between the tenant and the property management company, with the principal broker signing the lease agreement as agent for the landlord. So Mr. Wenshin's proposed secondary employment would involve only the latter function of the lease agreement, and would not involve the county Section 8 contract. So two separate contracts. So as testified to earlier, Mr. Wenshin's supervisor has confirmed that before he accepts the secondary employment, or the casework, the 38 cases will be moved from Mr. Wenshin to other housing specialists. Let's see. Mr. Wenshin would perform all the Halemahaʻolu Property Management LLC work outside of his county work hours. And so the question for the board is whether, under these circumstances, his proposed secondary employment is incompatible with the proper discharge of his county duties, or which may tend to impair his independence of judgment. And the charter sections involved are 10-4.1b and 10-4.1c. The first is regarding confidential information. So that's going to be a cautionary that so it's no employee shall disclose information that by law or practice is not available to the public, and that the officer or employee acquires in the course of the officer or employee's official duties, or use such information for the officer or employee's personal gain or for the benefit of anyone. So even though those files are being moved, you did receive confidential information. So that confidential information has to be kept confidential just going forward. And the second charter provision is No employee shall engage in any business transaction or activity or have a financial interest, direct or indirect, that's incompatible with the proper discharge of the officer or employee's official duties, or that may tend to impair the officer's or employee's independence of judgment in the performance of the officer or employee's official duties, or take any official action in which the officer or employee has a direct or indirect financial interest, including participating in deliberations. Just wanted to lay that framework for you all.
So if I understand, if your caseload is there would not be any situations in which you're in your county job where you might still be required to make decisions regarding Halemaʻaholo?
Absolutely not. Once those files are assigned to someone else, it's their responsibility.
In your this temporary position with Halemaʻaholo, would you have any involvement with any matter involving the county, including communications with the county or county employees on behalf of Halemaʻaholo?
No, I would not.
Do we have any questions, Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, so your big boss talked about, and I guess you did too, you alluded to the 38 files in your caseload now that'll be Halemaʻaholo files that will be transferred out of your purview.
Correct.
Okay, so that's 38 Halemaʻaholo clients that you will no longer have.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any further? Anything further?
Yes, I have a question. What about a precedent as far as changing a job description to fit the employee? That's my concern. If current responsibilities are being moved away and 38 cases are going to be moved to other specialists so that he can do this secondary job, where is that as far as a precedent?
So in my position, I'm a housing specialist, special program. So I handle different types of vouchers. One is a project-based voucher, which is Halemaʻaholo Iwalu. There's stability vouchers, emergency housing vouchers, Veterans Affairs vouchers. They're specialized programs, not your normal Section 8 vouchers. So as these 38 files move away, I will be taking on additional 38 special vouchers. So I guess my job description is still special programs. I'm not taking on I'm not sure there's a need to change my job description because it's really not changing. It's just
You're still doing that. You would still do the same work, but it would be on a different area. As I understand it, it's veterans
correct.
housing,
Correct.
which is a completely different from Halemaʻaholo.
Absolutely.
I have a question, and thank you, member Katie, for bringing that up. So I'm a retiree of the county. So I understand that no matter what, you're still gonna work 8 hours, right?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
that's all I want to know is
Right.
like, take it away, but we're gonna give you something more because that's the way it happens. Yeah, okay, but no job description change, no additional over beyond stuff that you already do. And I guess your colleagues in the department know what you're doing so that they see that as they receive something, you will also receive to replace.
Right.
So it's tit for tat.
Particularly one colleague knows, the one
okay.
colleague that is going to.
Yeah, it's the only
be
person he
engaged
needs
in
to
the-
know, right? Is the
Well,
person affected by all this.
Correct.
Okay. And your big boss, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, but I understand Member Schroeder's thing about precedence because, you know, that, oh, you can do that in county government. There's no precedence. Everybody is the same, yeah? So you're not getting less work for more pay.
No.
Okay, That's all I want to know. I'm sorry for my pigeon, but that's the way it is. Thank you.
Yes.
May I, Chair, make one comment? With regards to the switching of files, his current 38 files are fairly easy, to be honest with you. So, and Mark is very transparent. He did have this discussion with one of the other housing specialists. So the switch is actually going to be beneficial for this one other housing specialist, and the 38 veteran files are going to be a little bit more difficult for Mark, to be honest with you, and he's aware of this. So the other housing specialist is actually going to be benefiting from the switch. And with regards to the PD member, there is no retooling of the position description. The other housing specialist does have special purpose vouchers as well. And Mark, as Mark had mentioned, he does have special purpose vouchers. So it's an even switch, and Mark will still work the 8 hours member. So no less hours than 8 hours. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, member.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And speaking as a retiree, you run a great ship that way. Yeah,
Yes.
everybody knows what's
Yes.
happening.
Transparency is very important.
Transparency. My ka'i. As a taxpayer, I really appreciate that. Mahalo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anything further?
Just one thought. I really do appreciate Vice Chair Schroeder's comment, because I took it a little bit differently. So I not in the precedent of giving you less work, because clearly it's not, but the precedent of a county employee being offered or even looking for secondary employment that then could affect their county employment, and then asking their supervisor to make concessions to allow for the secondary employment. So I do appreciate that question, because it could be precedent. But I do want to say, though, that county employees are allowed to have secondary employment. And if you're going to do it, you do it this way. You talk to your supervisor, you come to the board. Also, you know, I hope it's okay for me to disclose, like Mr. Wenshin did come to us before the arrangement of the 38 being moved from him, and we had concerns about that. So I appreciate that you took those concerns informally, talked with your supervisor. I think this is a much cleaner arrangement regarding any conflicts, and also you know, upholding the public trust that there's no sort of overlap. So if you're going to do the secondary employment, come see us to get it vetted first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if nothing further, I have a recommendation, and it's a long one. Based on the facts presented, I recommend the board issue an advisory opinion that Mr. Wenshin's proposed secondary employment as principal broker of Halemaʻaʻolu Property Management LLC is not incompatible with the proper discharge of his duties as a county housing specialist, and does not tend to impair his independence of judgment in the performance of his official duties. The board's finding is based in particular on the separation of Mr. Wenshin's county responsibilities from his proposed duties with Halemaʻaʻolu Property Management LLC. If Mr. Wenshin accepts the secondary employment, the department will reassign his existing Halemaʻaʻolu caseload to another housing specialist, and Mr. Wenshin will not be assigned future Section 8 participants residing at Halemaʻaʻolu. Accordingly, Mr. Wenshin will no longer have responsibility for Halemaʻaʻolu matters in his capacity as a county housing specialist. The board's finding is also subject to the following conditions and cautions. 1, pursuant to Charter Section 10-4.1B, Mr. Wenshin shall not disclose or use any information that is not available to the public and that he acquires in the course of his county duties for the benefit of himself, Halemaʻaʻolu Property Management LLC, or any other person or entity. His proposed secondary employment does not authorize him to access, disclose, or use non-public county information for purposes of his private employment. 2, pursuant to Charter Section 10-4.1D, all work performed for Honolulu Property Management LLC must be performed outside of Mr. Wenshin's county work hours and without the use of county time, equipment, facilities, supplies, or other county resources. 3, Mr. Wenshin must continue to maintain a separation between his county responsibilities and his duties as principal broker. In particular, he may not use his county position to take official action for the benefit of Honolulu Property Management LLC or otherwise participate in county matters involving Honolulu in his capacity as a county employee. And lastly, I also asked that Director Akataki issue general guidance from the Board of Ethics Office on this topic, including cautionary language that if Mr. Wenshin's responsibilities with Honolulu or the county were to expand beyond what's been described today, he may need to seek additional guidance from the board. So I have a motion.
I so move.
So we got Randall Leach's second. Do we have further discussion? I'm going to call the motion. All in favor, raise your hands. It's unanimous. You'll be getting a written opinion confirming what we just voted on and approved.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to you, Mr. Wenshin.
Thank you.
And Mr. Lyons. Okay. Item 5. Our next agenda item is board approval of the 2027 meeting schedule. We're recommending to meet every other month, which is what the Honolulu Ethics Commission does. We can and will call an additional special meeting on those off months if necessary. The arrangement will allow the office staff to have more time to focus on the substantive work of the office. And by way of background, as many of you know, I was on the Honolulu Ethics Commission for 9 years, and after I'd been on the commission for several years, I asked the staff about how much work it took for them to get ready for our meetings and how much work that they did to wrap up the meetings. And it was enormous. It was eating into a significant amount of monthly work just to prepare for and then wrap up board meetings every month. And so I'd recommended back then that we move to an every other month schedule, which we did. And it's been that way now for, I don't know, close to 10 years. And it works really well, but we have the off month is available if we need to. It would mean, I predict that we would have more on our plate each meeting because we're not meeting every month. So any discussion about the? Not, could I have a motion to approve it?
Well, I appreciate not only the history of this, but also your moving forward with it, because I too understand being a former county administrator, but also in other boards and commissions at both the state and county level, the tremendous amount of work that it takes to prepare, deliver, and then follow up on a particular meeting. And yes, thank you.
It's basically 2 weeks. It's basically 2 weeks of work.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see the staff spend more of their time doing their work and responding to the public and county and all the things that they do that we've seen in Akataki's self-evaluation. It's an enormous workload. So can I have? Oh, that's another thing. The proposed schedule, as we've been doing since as long as I've been on this board, we start the board meetings at 12:30, and I don't know why it was picked 12:30. Caleb, do you have any idea? Okay. I posed the question to the staff, why isn't it 12? If this meeting place is available, why couldn't we have the meeting at 12?
It's not because we have time to eat lunch then? No, yeah. Yeah, I like 12 o'clock meetings.
Does anybody think there's a problem with that? It would give us an additional half hour if we have a bigger workload. So is there any opposition to that? So then I would I would move to approve the 2027 schedule with the proviso that if it's possible to have the schedule start at 12 instead of 12:30.
I second.
I'm no, you have to move.
Oh, I thought you,
No, I can't. Well,
yeah,
I
yeah,
asked
I
you that.
move.
I asked.
Sorry, I thought I heard move.
No, I did. I'm asking for a
I
motion.
move, I move.
Okay, and a second? Randall Leach, okay, any discussion? All in favor? All right, good work. Okay. The next one is item number 6. It's, this is the report of the Permitted Interaction Group, which was formed to review Maui County Charter 10-4.3 and recommend revisions. I do note that the Executive Director Akataki and Deputy Clerk Counsel have recused themselves from this discussion. So I'll give them time to exit the room. Okay. The PIG's final written report was posted. Yeah. The PIG's final report was posted with our July 8 meeting materials for the board's information pursuant to section 92-2.5B of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. No discussion could be had at that time. The report is also included in the board's packet for today's meeting, and I'd ask the members to please refer to the report for today's discussion. The PIG consisted of myself, Vice Chair Katie Schroeder, and member Brian Tanaka. And it was formed to review Charter 10-4.3, which states the county shall not enter in any contract of a value in excess of $500 with an officer or employee or with the firm in which the officer or employee has a substantial interest involving services or property unless the contract is made after competitive bidding. The PIG reviewed Charter 10-4.3 in light of how county government and nonprofit partnerships have evolved since the charter was adopted in 1982. While the charter's purpose remains preventing favoritism, self-dealing, and conflicts of interest in county contracting, the PIG found that the current language may unintentionally restrict civic and volunteer service by county employees and members of county boards and commissions. After reviewing the legislative history, prior advisory opinions from this board, and several other approaches, including potential charter amendments and administrative rule changes, the PIG concluded that the most practical and timely solution is to clarify through administrative rule that the term firm, as used solely in Charter 10-4.3, does not include nonprofit organizations registered with the IRS or government agencies. And we laid out in the PIG report how we came to that definition, how we analyzed the word and what its intention was as used in the charter. The PIG believes this interpretation is consistent with the ordinary meaning of the term firm, which generally refers to a commercial or for-profit business enterprise and better reflects the charter's original purpose of addressing private financial interests rather than civic or public service affiliations. The recommended administrative rule would remove an unintended barrier to volunteer and public service while preserving the board's authority to enforce all other applicable ethics provisions. County employees and officials would remain prohibited from using their positions for private advantage, would still be required to disclose conflicts and recuse themselves when appropriate, and would continue to be subject to all other ethics laws and rules. To accompany the rule, the PIG also recommends the board adopt formal guidance reminding employees and board and commission members that service with nonprofit organization and government entities is permissible only if they avoid using their county position or resources to benefit those organizations. Disclose affiliations when required, and recuse themselves from county matters involving those organizations. The guidance includes practical examples illustrating how these principles apply in common situations involving nonprofit board service, nonprofit employment, and service with government entities. We discussed this in the report. Finally, the PIG determined that an administrative rule can be adopted much sooner than a charter amendment, and of course, it's assured that we can adopt a rule. Charter, never, you don't know. Allowing the board to address these recurring issues promptly while retaining the option to pursue a charter amendment in the future if additional changes are warranted. So, discussion. If there's no further questions or discussion, I'd like to call for a motion that the board approve and adopt the recommendations of the permitted interaction group as set forth in its July 8, 2026 report, and direct staff to prepare proposed administrative rule amendments clarifying that the term firm is used solely in Charter 10-4.3, does not include nonprofit organizations or governmental entities, together with the recommended guidance regarding service with nonprofit and government organizations for the board's considerations.
I so move.
Thank you. Dave, second. So any further discussions? Okay, all in favor, raise your hands.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Yeah. And I want to appreciate your you're telling us that this over time, the traditional partnership or the partnership between government and nonprofit entities actually allow government to be better government.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I think so.
That's
It's a real
important.
positive step. So I appreciate it. And Brian and Katie, I want to thank you both for your service on the PIG. It was,
Thank you. Mahalo.
as we say in the Navy, it was a yeoman's effort.
Yeah. And as a priest, blessings on you.
So can we have? Yeah,
Okay. Good work. Mahalo.
thank you.
Wayne, he left, huh?
Oh, no.
He left. We still have quorum.
I'm going to note for the record that Dwayne Gomes has been excused from the board meeting today. So the next item, number 7. This is the discussion of the Honolulu Ethics Commission's conflict of interest disclosure forms for potential adoption in Maui County. We have a memo in your materials along with the forms, and we have Lori Wong Resents, a dear friend. Haven't seen you in a while, Lori. Thank you for coming. She worked with her on the Honolulu Ethics Commission for years. She's here to discuss them with you. So thank you, Lori, for being here. Now, first I'll turn it over to Director Akataki.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much, Ms. Resents, for coming and also for waiting. We're over an hour, and so thank you so much for your patience. So just real briefly before we hear from Ms. Resents, I just wanted to explain how this topic came to our attention. As you all know, we receive questions and complaints about secondary employment and conflicts of interest. And behind the scenes, the volume of these questions and complaints is a little bit of a concern. So in consulting with the Honolulu Ethics Commission, as we're getting our office up and running, they frequently cited and discussed these forms. And we simply don't have anything comparable here on Maui. And so I thought it would be helpful to get that information to you all. It's difficult to know how much having these types of forms would reduce the number of questions and complaints about secondary employment and conflicts of interest. But I do think it's safe to say that there would be a reduction. And that would help with workload, but also I think the larger benefit is greater transparency. I mean, we just talked through a secondary employment situation, and that increases public confidence in government. So so it was timely to talk about this because of Councilmember Batangan's interest in expanding who has to file a financial disclosure statement. So as you saw from the memo, they are separate forms, financial disclosure statements, and what information is required to be disclosed on financial disclosure statements versus conflict of interest. But it would be helpful to have a coordinated strategy of who and what we would like to see. So if Ms. Resence, if you'd give us some background on the forms and how they work for the City and County of Honolulu, and perhaps your thoughts on the value of the forms, that would be great to get us started.
Sure. Hello, Chair Lily. It's so great to see you. And hello, Executive Director, and hello, members. Thank you for having me here. First of all, I want to say that I took a look at the memo that staff has for the commission, and the memo is very thorough, and I think it represents our forms very well. So that should give you a little bit of a background on the forms. In regards to the specific forms, I want to say if you had to focus on one or two in particular, I would focus on the CC8, which is the disclosure of interests by officers or employees form. And this first one I would focus on, I feel, is because this one, it is actually applied to, given to every single person who enters city employment. So for us, every single employee that is onboarded through a new employee orientation process and benefits processing, they receive ethics training, which is mandated by our ordinances. And along with that ethics training, they're also given this form. And in this form, they're required to disclose if they have any outside employment in addition to their city employment, or if they have any outside business activities. So right off the bat, right when they enter the city, they're already placed on notice that if they do have an outside interest, they have to disclose it. Now, there are other times during an employee's term at the city that they do have to disclose. So for instance, if they get another outside job or another outside professional activity, they have to disclose it, as well as if there's an opportunity, like if they get promoted or transferred to another division or department, they also have to complete the form as well. So this form, it's actually, it sounds like it would be a lot of work, like if the commission had to review it. But here's a great part about this form, is that it actually goes to the administrative services officer or the appointing authority of the employee. So they get it first. They do a kind of like a screening of the form. And it's only if they believe that there is a conflict and they need guidance, then they forward that form to us at ethics, and then we look at it. So it's not a huge amount of extra work for us. I gotta be honest, majority of the forms that we get are from probably the fire department, and it used to be from the police department as well, but I think they do a pretty good job at police doing their own internal review. But those were the two departments that we mostly get outside employment forms from. So that's the first form. The second form that I would highly recommend adopting, if can, is the EM2 form, which I think is attached as Exhibit 2 to the memo that staff provided. And in the EM2, it's the disclosure of conflict of interest form. And that provides a great amount of transparency. So this is the second form that we see the most, I guess, the most recurrence of in our office is, especially more so with board and commission members, this form comes up as opposed to employees. This form is triggered when there is an appearance of a conflict of interest. So again, we're looking at it from a very proactive state. And this form is submitted to the Ethics Commission. And then we review it, we provide our answer to it, and then it is then provided to the city clerk. So it becomes a public record. So there's the transparency in that form. The final form that was discussed in the memo was the affidavit for employment after leaving the city. This form we see actually the fewest of. I've been with the Honolulu Ethics Commission for about 16 years. And within my 16 years, it's maybe only been a handful of times that this form has come across my desk. But the people who do fill out this form, they are very serious about ensuring that they don't run into any conflicts of interest with their post-city employment. So that's kind of the three forms that were presented to you in a nutshell. And I'm here and available if any of you folks have any questions or comments. Thank you.
I have a question. Hello, what is your position?
Sure,
sorry,
I'm the associate legal counsel at the Honolulu Ethics Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, was there also, I seem to recall was some kind of a form for recusing. It was if you're in if you have a conflict, you have to recuse. You had to fill out a form that disclosed that. Is that a different form? Is that still being used?
Yes, that is actually, I believe that's Exhibit 2. That's the EM2 form. So within that form, there is a section where you can check off, like after you describe, your role at the city, and then your outside role. Then it talks about this particular matter will come before me, and then it'll says, I will not participate, and I submit this to the Ethics Commission for guidance. So there's like check boxes. So I believe that is the form that you're talking about. And yes, it is still in existence and still in use.
Okay, what I had remembered was it seemed to be a more simple form, and it seems like that the commission has evolved with some more significant forms that cover a lot of information.
Mm.
Okay, Laura, anything more, Laura?
Ms. Resent, so could you explain in thinking about these forms for Maui, we're always sort of like, do we have enough authority in the charter to do this? So we have to do it via ordinance. And I know you had mentioned that this was done by administrative directive by the mayor. Can you speak to that?
Yes, I actually wasn't around when the administrative directive happened, but it's pursuant to a charter provision that grants, I believe it's actually the managing director, the authority to promulgate administrative directives. I can provide you with the charter section. Let's see if I can pull it up right now. So it's for us in our charter, it's section 6-102C. And in that section of the charter, it basically states that the managing director may prescribe standards of administrative practice to be followed by all agencies under the managing director's supervision. So this was in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, this was probably a quick and dirty way to get this enacted. because the limitation to this is that it's limited to the executive branch. Now, the legislative branch, our council members, they do have something that's like the equivalent to this, although they're not required to recuse themselves. They're just required to disclose in their own council administrative rules manual. So they have something that's equivalent to this. But the limitation on doing it through the administrative directive, yes, it's quick and dirty and you can get it done quickly, but it's only applicable to the exec branch side. So, and also for enforcement purposes, let's say somebody blows it off and doesn't want to do a CC8 disclosure form, you can't, or we can't, impose any sanctions on them through a violation of ethics laws because it's an admin directive. So it would instead be insubordination, for instance, if an employee didn't want to fill out this form. So that's basically how these forms were implemented, is through admin directive, with the exception of the affidavit for the employment after leaving city government. Now that one is actually pursuant to an ordinance.
Could I ask Corp Counsel to speak to, do we have administrative directives? I mean, what are your thoughts on how we be able to do this?
I know that we do have administrative directives that employees are routinely required to do. The violence in the workplace policy is one that comes to the top of my mind. There are policies that every new employee has to go through. I'm not completely sure on where that authority comes from. I would have to look into it. But the one kind of thought that I did have that I think is similar to what the city and county of Honolulu said is my concern about enforceability. If it's what are the remedies that are available? But it sounds like she had discussed that, so that's what I was going to just bring up.
Thanks. I had one more question, Ms. Rosen. So actually two more. So this is more just maybe your thoughts on, so we're a new office and we have these pretty large initiatives, and change is hard for people. So we're always looking at with the initiatives, if and when they pass, who are we asking to do extra work and what are we asking of them? So thinking through, and you saw in the memo, the implementation considerations, because we don't know exactly like how it would be an administrative directive and then only be applicable to the executive branch, or is it everyone, legislative as well? I mean, we're not sure, but if you could sort of give us our thoughts on your thoughts on like how difficult would it be to train the departments on being able to review these forms? Like, do you get people, maybe a new director calling you, like, can you train me on this? What should I look for? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, in regard to the CC8, well, I'll say, first of all, for the CC8 disclosure of outside employment or disclosure of outside interest forms, to go along with the new employee orientation, we really got the buy-in from the Department of Human Resources. So they really helped us to distribute these forms to all the new employees that are coming on board. And back in the day, I used to actually attend every single new employee onboarding process. So that was usually maybe once every 2 weeks at the Blaisdell. There'd be maybe around 50 employees there, 50 to 100 employees. I'd provide ethics training, and then directly after that training, I would then go through that form with them. Well, after COVID happened, we didn't do in-person training anymore. It turned into a video, and then luckily for us, Department of Human Resources kind of took over that role of continuing to provide the form to the new employees and having them fill it out. So that's the way that we implemented that form. Another way that we have been implementing these forms is by kind of having every department's administrative services officer act as sort of the ethics liaison to us. And so we provide specialized training to the administrative services officers. So it's kind of like train the trainer. So they can provide the forms to their employees. So we feel that the better that we train the administrative services officers, the better that they can in turn provide those forms to their department employees and inform their employees.
Thank you. What would it be like if the city and county of Honolulu did not have these forms? Can you imagine that for us?
Oh, yeah, I think we'd have a large influx of calls regarding outside employment. And there'd be a lot more people calling and probably complaining about either outside employment or conflicts of interest that had not been disclosed and people not recusing themselves. So I think that's what would happen. These forms are really to get it on to try to address the issues head on instead of waiting for them to come into us at the back end when it turns into a complaint. So I think these forms are helpful for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, what I've seen is when there's an absence of filling a gap, then, we see the questions and the complaints, like the lobbyist rules. There's no lobbyist rules. But a larger issue there is people don't understand really the ins and outs of the concept, because if you aren't engaging with it regularly, then you're not formulating people's understandings of the concept. And so when I speak to the Honolulu Ethics Commission, the understanding of conflicts of interest in outside employment is just so much better formed than the average understanding of it here. And so we are the world without these forms. And so we're seeing that, but I would really like the understanding of it to be increased across the county.
Mm-hmm.
Any further comments, questions?
Well, I have a comment about being proactive, and I'm sure, Council, that you're talking here about the process of proactivity that has allowed the city and county of Honolulu to be upfront and disclosing and transparent in a proactive way, so as to make your ethical jobs a lot easier and a lot more process oriented and not reactionary.
Yes.
Okay.
We've noticed that with our increase of we had when Chair Lilly was on our commission, our commission started focusing a lot more on being proactive, doing a lot of training in ways that would engage people and really get them interested and excited about ethics. And I think that's really made a difference. If that historically, ethics training was only required for managers and supervisors. And then in around 2012, we had a law passed that then required ethics training for all city employees. So we started with managers and supervisors. There was specialized ethics training for them, but then expanded to all employees. That's made a difference.
Yeah, well, I like being excited about ethics. I mean, I think we should be excited about ethics, and I'm excited about ethics. Thank you.
Great.
And you still do the online training?
Yes, it's online now. We reserve in-person training for specialized training. Like if certain departments want like specialized gift training or specialized training for their managers, then we do it in person. But for all employee trainings and for new employee trainings and board and commission trainings, all of that have now turned into online.
I remember when that happened. I remember in the days when there was sort of like a dog and pony show going around to all the departments to give training, and boy, that was a lot of work. And doing
Yes.
the online thing and you can keep track online. So it's a way to manage the training. So
Yes.
Lori, I really appreciate your kokua as always, and wishing you all the best.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
Yeah,
Great.
same to you folks. It's great to see you. And again, thank you for your time and thank you for inviting me here. I'm always
Oh.
available if staff or anyone needs to reach out and wants to talk or anything anymore. Feel free to reach out to us.
Wonderful.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. Okay, I'd like a motion to direct the board office to further explore this concept of these forms, including discussing the forms with the appropriate county personnel and alternatives for what we can do, what the staff thinks how we could implement similar things here on Maui and report back to the board. So can I have a motion? Okay, do I have a second? Second from Sherry. Discussion, all in favor? And it's unanimous. Okay. Number 8. We're now going to move into executive session to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of an officer or employee of the County of Maui where considerations of matters affecting privacy will be involved pursuant to HRS Section 92-5A2, and to deliberate or make a decision upon a matter that requires the consideration of information that must be kept confidential pursuant to a state or federal law or court order pursuant to HRS Section 92-5A8. The board may also convene in an adjudicatory session pursuant to HRS Section 92-6. The adjudicatory and investigative functions may result in the board consulting with the board's attorney on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities pursuant to HRS Section 92-5A4. Item 8A of our agenda may be considered an executive session pursuant to HRS Section 92-5A, subsections 2 and 4, and 92-6A. Is there a motion to move into executive session? Got a motion? Got a second? Randall? Discussion, all in favor? Raise your hands. Katie, it's unanimous. The Board of Ethics has returned to regular session. I'm Michael Lilly. I'm the chair of the Board of Ethics, and I'd like to acknowledge Katie Schroeder. You're remote and alone, right? And okay, Randall, in the room with me is Randall Leach, Sherry Dodson, Brian Tanaka, and John Tomoso, as well as the attorneys and staff discussed earlier. Members Carol Swan and Dwayne Gomes are excused. We're back in regular session, and it's 2:43 on August 12th, 2026. The board has completed its first annual performance evaluation of Executive Director, Legal Counsel Lauren Nakataki in executive session. Before I read the board's evaluation, I'd like to say at the outset that the Board of Ethics has come a long way under Lauren's leadership. On July 31 last year, we had no full-time staff and no office. Lauren hit the ground running the next day, but she was by herself. She quickly began building a team and located an office from which to operate. She has issued more informal opinions, ethics opinions in 1 year than I believe the board has issued formal opinions in 10 years. She has spearheaded new legislation and changes to our administrative rules to strengthen ethics oversight, fulfilling our mission that we hold the public's trust. She has clearly become, as we hoped she would, the perfect face of the Board of Ethics. Everyone on the board before she took over has found that now our meetings are more substantive, freeing us to operate more strategically. We are all extremely proud and grateful to have her at the helm. So I'm going to read the following that the board unanimously approved in executive session. We evaluated Executive Director Legal Counsel Lauren Akataki based on 7 criteria: vision and leadership, work with board members, quality and quantity and work major work duties, serve as the board's trusted face and voice, supervision of staff, planning procedures and priorities, and overall performance. In each area, she was uniformly outstanding. Since assuming her position on August 1, 2025, Lauren Akataki has provided strong proactive leadership in establishing Maui County's first full-time office of the Board of Ethics. During this inaugural year, she built the office's infrastructure, launched its core operations, created procedures for complaints, advisory opinions, investigations, and financial disclosures, and worked closely with the board, county administration, council, and peer ethics agencies. Through these efforts, she established a professional, credible, and effective ethics oversight for Maui County. Key accomplishments include creating the office's operational foundation, expanding staff capacity, and significantly increasing timely ethics guidance for county employees and officials. She also advanced major policy initiatives concerning lobbyist regulation, anti-nepotism standards, conflicts of interest, gifts, and the use of county resources. The sharp rise in advisory requests and complaints reflects both a growing demand for ethics guidance and heightened public engagement with the board and its office. The office has faced substantial challenges in its first year, including the demands of standing up a new county operation while managing a rapidly expanding workload. Throughout this period, Ms. Akataki has remained focused on delivering fair, consistent, and timely ethics guidance. With the remaining 2 positions scheduled to be filled in September, the office will enter its second year with a stronger organizational base and increased capacity to meet its responsibilities. She has created a high-functioning staff characterized by high morale and a positive work environment. Her work with the board has been exemplary. She communicates clearly and succinctly, provides the information necessary for the board to carry out its responsibilities, and consistently demonstrates sound judgment, professionalism, and responsiveness. Moving forward, the board strongly supports the EDLC's vision of shifting from foundational work to fully implementing the systems, policies, and educational programs necessary for its long-term effectiveness. Priorities for the coming year include advancing and operationalizing key ethics initiatives, developing a comprehensive county-wide ethics education and training program, improving complaint and investigative processes, strengthening financial disclosure and lobbyist administration, and continuing to provide timely ethics guidance. The board is deeply grateful for Lauren's leadership, dedication, and exceptional performance during this first critical year. She's exceeded expectations in establishing and guiding the new office through a demanding period of growth and public scrutiny, and we look forward to continued progress and achievement as the office enters its second year. I would like a motion ratifying that was the statement that we approved in executive session. So also approves of motion, moves, and Randall Leach has seconded. Any discussion? If not, I'll raise your hand if you agree. And I see Chivo's here, by the way. It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank
So
you, Lauren.
Our next meeting, the scheduled meeting is October 14, 2026, and you'll be notified if it's at 12 or 12:30. And it'll be here at the Planning Department Conference Room. And if there's any further business, I'm going to call the meeting adjourned.
Chair?
Yes, Chivo.
The PIG that we have implemented, how will we be communicating on that? Will that be through RISA or?
Yeah, we'll be talking.
RISA, I mean.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll be talking. So nothing to do. It's adjourned. Thank you.